The following is rated S for spoilers.
Pinocchio, you shouldn't lie to me. I am your papa.
But I'm telling the truth.
Then why is your nose growing?
It's not.
Hello and welcome to the Popcorn Hangover. My name is Alex.
My name is Graham.
And today we are discussing Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, directed by Guillermo del Toro and Mark Gustafson, written by Guillermo del Toro and Patrick McHale, based on the book by Carlo Collodi, starring Gregory Mann, Ewan McGregor, and David Bradley, among others, releasing December 9th, 2022, officially on Netflix, with an estimated budget of $35 million and an estimated worldwide gross of $70.3 million in its limited release. Yes, you did hear that right. I am joined by the one and only Graham Garber today.
I'm back.
He's back.
We are back,
with
baby.
a vengeance. Coming back with Pinocchio.
No visions, but Pinocchio, yeah. Good one to honestly jump on. I missed a few great ones, honestly.
Yeah.
But,
well, we're happy to have you back. Graham,
I'm excited,
let's just jump right into it. What were your thoughts on Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio?
Dude, when we were talking about what to do, and you literally recommended Pinocchio, I was like, literally, no. Can I
stop you right there and just say, you gave a really great suggestion of Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really popular. Let's check it out. And I just said a quick 60-second review. I watched 30 minutes of the first episode and said, I cannot do this anymore. That was the most garbage writing I've ever seen. And I don't know if it was bad directing or bad acting or bad editing or a combination of everything. I could not sit there and watch that whole show. So I'm sorry that I had to veto that option.
I can tell you, when you sent me that review, and you were like, absolutely not, we got to come up with something else. I was about to sit down and watch it. I actually haven't even seen Wednesday yet myself, but I was going to get through it over the weekend. And this, honestly, no, this was a fantastic option to go with. I had no expectations going into this movie. I don't think I've ever even seen like the Disney Pinocchio. No shot I've ever read the book. But like, I know, you know the story, the nose grows, the lying, all the jazz. So like, I just thought it was like just Pinocchio, and you mentioned it's all stop motion, which is really cool. That's like a big thing for us. So it was in our past too. And so, no, I was really excited going into this. And I guess I was really excited coming out of it. I really enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Yeah. I wasn't really sure what to expect.
Yeah.
Just because, like Pinocchio has been so overdone, especially in the last year. This is the third Pinocchio movie we've gotten.
I remember because what was Tom Hanks?
Yeah, so there was the Zemeckis Pinocchio with Tom
Mm-hmm.
Hanks in it on Disney Plus. That apparently was awful. I never saw it.
I didn't either.
There was another one called like I Am Pinocchio, and it's like a Russian version, I think. That had a lot of, it's like animated. No one liked that one either because it's been done over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, this wasn't just a remake of the Disney version that everyone knows and loves. This was very much a retelling of the original story by Carlo Collodi, which nice little Easter egg to name the son Carlo after the author of the story. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was very different. I wasn't really sure what to expect. Just when I heard that it's Pinocchio, but with Nazis and Mussolini and all of that, I was kind of I wasn't sure how that was going to play. But then it worked really, really well.
It worked really well. Yeah, I didn't literally when it started and it was like going through and I was like watching, and as far as I could remember Pinocchio and the whole like circus and being like signed on the contract, all that stuff. Like I remembered that, and people were like trying to steal him and he became a real boy and all that stuff. And that like relatively happens like in the first like 20, 30 minutes, like it kicks on and goes. And so I was like, I've still got quite a bit of this movie left. What is going to happen? Yeah. It took such a different take.
Yeah.
But it literally kept me like, it held my attention the entire time.
I was like zoned. I was surprised by how zoned in it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I got a call in the middle of it and I was like, do I just ignore this? Like, and just keep watching? Because like I was very engaged throughout it all. I also wasn't expecting it to be kind of a musical. That first musical number kind of threw me off a little bit. Like that's the one time that I was a little like taken out of it. Was I just wasn't expecting that to be in something that seemed more realistic,
having a heavy tone to it. Yeah,
but I also like the comedy of it, because musicals, for it to be a musical, it has to, singing and dancing has to be part of the way that world communicates, and no one thinks anything of it. And every single number is some type of performance, or there's some reason for them to be singing, except for when Sebastian J. Cricket tries to sing. At that point, it very much is like a musical number, and then he gets cut off every single time.
Yeah,
I thought that was a funny little joke that not many people probably got, because they're not nerds like I am. But like, I thought that was a fun joke to be like, this isn't technically a musical, but we're gonna, we know everyone's gonna call it this, so let's just like make a little nod to it, and then just smash a cricket. Yeah, who's trying to.
I enjoyed the little numbers. I was not expecting it whatsoever. And honestly, when the first one jumped in, I was a little thrown off, but I was also like, I mean, maybe this was like happened in the Disney one. I had no idea.
Yeah,
so
the Disney one is very much a musical.
Okay, cool. I kind of assumed it. Like I said, never seen it, so I was like, okay. But no, it was super fun. Like and that's the thing is, it was very, not like dark. It had a darker tone to it.
I was thinking about this, and you have like younger family members. So maybe you could answer, but like,
I wouldn't watch this with a kid.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, would you watch this with a kid?
Not the kids. I mean, honestly, like, I would. Dude, I don't even. I mean, like, obviously, like, some stuff they're not going to pick up on.
Like, obviously, they're not going to know what's up with Mussolini and Nazis and stuff.
Yeah,
like, they're not going to
like none of that. But like, also with like, when Carlos dies and then Geppetto just becomes washed up and is
he's just like super drunk and everything. I was surprised to see that.
Lets go of everything. He stops wood making. It's just like, he just sees life kind of go downhill a bit. And I'm just like, which I mean, like, it's understandable. Like, if you were to lose a kid, like, I get it. But also, like, yeah, like, kids probably wouldn't pick up on that as much, but that's not something that they're going to really hold their attention to. So I'm just like, and then same thing with like just the Nazis and, what was kind of filtered in with that. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be showing this to many kids, probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
They could stick to Disney's version.
It was really interesting, like, the sense of realism that Guillermo del Toro inserted into it. Like, because Guillermo del Toro, in general, just really likes making anti-war movies, like with Shape of Water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense they would do this. But when I was doing this, I didn't know a lot about the history of this film. Like, I had heard about it for a little bit, just because he has a big name and everything. But when I was doing research on budgets and everything, I found a really cool quote from Guillermo del Toro talking about this movie. I did not realize this movie took him 15 years to get funded. And from the sounds of it, he basically had this exact vision of what came about for 15 years. Wow. I think it's an aspect of filmmaking that not a lot of people realize, is like, these ideas don't just... Okay, maybe with Marvel movies this is different, but for most movies, like, these ideas don't just pop up and they write it down and it gets made within a couple of years. Like, a lot of this stuff happens over a very long period of time. There's lots of thought that's put into it. And with something like this, for an idea like this to work the way it is, like, you have to have a lot of thought and care into it, and you have to have a real appreciation for the original story. But there was this quote from Variety during the Shape of Water premiere. He was talking and he said, I've been looking for financing for almost 10 years. We have the puppets, we have the design. I always or almost always complicate my life. None of the movies I want to do are easy, and they don't belong to anything or anyone. No one wanted to do superheroes when I did Hellboy. No one wanted to do monsters when I did Pacific Rim. When I announced Pinocchio, I got my calls. Yeah, but it's set during the rise of Mussolini. It's an anti-fascist Pinocchio. If you have $35 million and if you want to make a Mexican happy, here I am, is what he said in 2017. Because, I mean, yeah, like, whoa. When you pitch a movie, like Guillermo del Toro's making a Pinocchio, like, that's all I knew kind of going into it, really. Yeah. And that made sense. But then when you pitch, we're going to make Pinocchio set in fascist Italy and Mussolini is going to, like, make an appearance in all of this. That's a really hard sell for a children's movie. When already Pinocchio is a pretty hard sell because it's just made over and over and over again. Right. $35 million is relatively cheap. I mean, they make Disney Plus shows for $10 million shy of that per episode. Like, $35 million is relatively cheap, and they've more than doubled their profits already for a Netflix straight to streaming original.
Which is great.
Yeah. I'm very impressed. I almost saw it when I was in El Paso a couple weeks ago because I had some downtime, and I was like, I might go to the theater, and they were showing Pinocchio.
So it did have an actual like.
It had a very limited release.
Okay.
Yeah, like I know Alamo was showing it, and there was very limited release because it is a Netflix thing.
Yeah.
But I almost wonder if Guillermo del Toro just like wanted to just put a middle finger to everyone who said it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And just wanted to like
just get it out there a little.
Make again a relatively small amount of money back very quickly. Because that was in a weekend.
Which he did. He did that.
with a very hard sell.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say that you like this movie.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. I don't think I liked it as much as some of these ratings give it. I did like it. Rotten Tomatoes has a 97% critic score and 84% audience score. IMDb gave it an 8 out of 10, Letterboxd a 4.1 out of 5. You made an interesting observation. This is like one of the highest IMDb ratings we've had in a while. I feel like a lot of them sit in like the 7-ish range.
Yeah, if not lower. I mean, then depending on what we're reviewing, but yeah. And honestly, for me, like I kind of fall in line with some of those. Honestly, like I know my main thing is like if I would watch this at home again, I honestly would. I thought it looked great, like the detail and with it being stop motion and using, all like physical. I think, do you call them puppets? Yeah, puppets and everything for. To make this movie, it was so well detailed. It looked so good. Everything, it was just fun. Like I would sit there and watch that over and over again. I loved it.
Yeah, it was very visually appealing, and it was like visually refreshing.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next segment. Little tease early on. I want to talk about some of this cast.
Yeah. I
only gave like a few people because I made the list before I'd actually seen the movie, so I wasn't sure who to give the most credit to. I mean, Ewan McGregor I think gave an amazing performance as Sebastian J. Cricket. I was very impressed. He can sing apparently.
Why would he not be able to?
I mean, he's like a motorcycle riding Jedi. I don't know. I wasn't expecting Ewan McGregor to have
Homie's got the soft spot in his heart.
A nice little singing voice. He's got a soft spot. I mean, he lives in a heart.
That is true.
So
that's perfect for him.
There you go. David Bradley also did fantastic as Geppetto.
Yeah.
There were some very interesting casting choices. Some of them are obvious. For example, like Christoph Waltz playing Count Volpe makes a ton of sense. Christoph Waltz is like, every time when I was watching the movie, I just kept thinking of Inglourious Bastards, where he plays a Nazi soldier, and stuff like that. Ron Perlman as Podesta was also fantastic.
Yeah.
When you have characters like Finn Wolfhard, who I did not recognize as Candlewick.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was like Finn Wolfhard voiced this 5 years ago, I would maybe believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was just telling you, I saw a clip on Twitter or Instagram, just something came up about Pinocchio and it had, it just was with the casting, voices of Finn Wolfhard, and it showed him, a side-by-side clip of him and Candlewick, and I was like, dude, no shot. No way would I have ever guessed that or even have placed that actor there. And same thing with Cate Blanchett being...
Yeah, Cate Blanchett, I think, might be the star WTF was going on with this casting. Cate Blanchett playing Spazzatura, the monkey. That was
blew my mind.
I mean, Cate Blanchett makes lots of appearances in Guillermo del Toro movies, so it makes sense that she's in the movie. That she would be in the movie somewhere
in some fashion.
But yeah, as a monkey, I mean, she made good monkey noises.
She killed it. I was gonna say I'm not complaining. It was great.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be played by an actor who does just animal noises.
Yeah.
And then I saw Cate Blanchett as Spazzatura. I was like, wait a minute, am I spazzing right now? I thought Spazzatura was the monkey. Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, Graham really appreciated that little.
Got a little reaction out of that one.
Yeah. I was a little, I was confused. And I mean,
I don't know how I did not place Tilda Swinton as the wood spirit thing. Cause it sounded like her and it sounds like it's her. So I was I recognize the voice, But I was also like, maybe it's just like the mystically like style.
That's another thing I'll say about this movie too, is there weren't a lot of times where I feel like for the most part, I've had the exact same reaction as you to that, where like I'll see it and like, yeah, that makes sense. And I hear that. But as I'm watching it, I wasn't distracted by that.
No, not at all.
Not even a little bit. Like I was just engaged in the story when it was happening. Cause yeah, like Tilda Swinton's played that kind of character. Again, like she sounded like she was in Narnia, like she was the witch in Narnia.
Felt like similar.
It was a very similar vocal performance, and like, but I didn't really pick up on that immediately. I wasn't like,
really? Oh, that's who that is.
Distract me from what was happening. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that really stood out. I don't really recognize many other main roles, but yeah, no, for those that were in there, I had no dude. Besides Del Toro directing this, I would have never seen. I would have never guessed any of these cast members. I didn't even know Ewan McGregor did.
That's a surprise me because like
I should have picked up on that.
I thought
I should have known.
He wasn't. I guess he was doing a bit more of like his normal British accent.
It was a lot heavier, but which I guess I'm just not.
I feel like it was just his like normal voice.
Yeah.
Which I guess if you really only watch Star Wars, I guess
I wouldn't know. I honestly don't think I've seen much else that he's done. So I guess that makes a little more sense.
I suppose that's fair.
But yeah, no, he did great, dude.
I noticed something interesting, just with this year in general, and we'll probably talk about this again in a few weeks in our 2022 wrap up. But like I said, this is the third Pinocchio movie we've gotten within a 1 year time period. It's second of 2022. But then I was just thinking about it. This year we got Top Gun Maverick, of course. No one can shut up about it. It's back in theaters again for whatever reason.
Because why not?
And I feel like part of the reason, and I don't really understand why they did this, but it's in theaters at the same time as Devotion, which is also a movie about naval aviators, also starring Glenn Powell as one of the naval aviators. Very different movies, but in terms of like same watching ideas. A trailer and looking, just like
if you see that guy and you see a plane, you're gonna be like, oh, Maverick.
From a general audience perspective, if you go into the theater and saying, what movie do I want to watch? And then you see Top Gun Maverick and Devotion, and you watch both trailers and you see they're basically the same. I feel like most people are going to want to watch Maverick again before they watch Devotion. 100%. That's just my prediction. We'll see what happens at the box office this weekend. So we have two similar movies coming out. And that's not Devotion's fault. I mean, Maverick was supposed to come out years ago. So, and Glenn Powell's a great actor. He has the experience in those planes. So it makes sense to cast him again. That's just really unfortunate timing for them. But you also have Multiverse of Madness, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Two multiverse movies that released within a month of each other. Very similar premises. One did it better than the other. And that's another theme with it. I haven't seen Devotion yet, but like you have one version of this movie that did it a whole lot better than the other version, and they're both released in the same year. Is that a coincidence? Are people like trying to snipe people out and like try to stop them from making money at the theater? Like, is this just a crazy coincidence that two Pinocchio movies released in the same year? One was complete and utter garbage, and the other was fantastic.
I honestly, I don't know. When it comes to Top Gun Maverick and it comes to Devotion, and even same thing with Everything Everywhere All at Once and Multiverse of Madness, like everything Everywhere All at Once had such a limited release at the beginning, and it kind of grew a little more and a little more, and it had such a weird span of being in the theater and
that is a little movie that could.
It really was. It really was compared to the hype that Multiverse of Madness carried with it, that everyone was waiting for and things like that. Like, I honestly would the four of those movies, like in each of their coincidental drops and releases, I don't think there's anything like too snipey or too like on purposeful with those. When it comes to this though, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if Del Toro was like Tom Hanks, like the Disney one was kind of crap. No one helped me in mine.
Got Tom Hanks. We got literally everybody else.
Exactly. He got a great cast. The movie's doing great. Ran it with Netflix on a streaming platform, and it's just doing better. It's got great reviews. Yeah, that I wouldn't be surprised if he definitely just kind of did that one to like not like just really blatantly like rub it in their face, but also just to get that win because he definitely.
I almost think I don't know if it would be a Del Toro thing just because he has been like trying to get this made for so long. I almost wonder if that's a Disney thing of like
of them trying to rush their.
Yeah, let's push our version out again because it's essentially the same as the original, but minus
Disney doesn't. They don't rush movies to sacrifice quality though.
No, they would never do such a thing.
They would never do.
Why would you? Yeah. Why would I'm sorry. Why would I suggest such a terrible thing for a company to do? I don't know. I think it really
that makes more sense, honestly. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it emphasizes kind of. I mean, Disney is doing a lot of really great things. Just in I mean, they're buying a lot of really great things. I'll put it that way. And I feel like Disney's really putting an emphasis on what it looks like to. I saw this earlier, like someone was talking about like how superhero movies are called franchises, and the fact that they call them a franchise, that in itself just says that their only focus is on making money, which I don't entirely disagree with. I think there's a little. I mean, when you have multiple movies that are part of the same thing, it's a franchise. That's just how.
Yeah, it's all connected. Yeah.
But I see what he's trying to say. Like. Disney's very much they're focused on making content that people that are going to sell really well, whereas Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was very much a labor of love, and it was very much it was very clear that he appreciated the source material.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something I've been thinking about because I was just listening to like the most life-changing podcast ever with the editor for Cobra Kai. Which is a weird thing I never thought I would say, but like
I was like, what? Wait, what?
But yeah, like he was talking about, like he got the job for Cobra Kai because it, like, and the reason that Cobra Kai is successful while all these other legacy sequels aren't is because there is genuine love for the Karate Kid, and that carries over into Cobra Kai. You want to hear more of our thoughts on Cobra Kai? Go listen to our Cobra Kai episode.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Shameless plug right there. But yeah, like. There's obviously a genuine love and a genuine like care for the source material, and so he was able to bring something new to the table that was interesting, but was also able to honor what was initially written in the initial story. And you still have all those exact same themes with the backdrop of Mussolini and fascist Italy. Like it's just this. I think this is a masterclass in how to do. Not necessarily remakes because it isn't, but how to do retellings of the same story over and over and over again,
and do it well.
And do it well. Yeah. It's not the same thing that we've seen a million times with a different cast and a different art style. Right. This is truly stands alone, and it's truly its own unique thing.
And honestly, I feel like bouncing off that right there, just with it being its own unique thing, kind of standing alone, not being a major part of a major franchise or having connected to anything. Like, honestly, in today's time with the movies coming out and everything just seeming to be Disney or Marvel or some attached way of something, like, I feel like a lot of these people, like a lot of these directors in these movies coming out, like, don't want to take the risk on something being so unique as standalone, but it's done so well, though. Like, I feel like when they pitch those ideas, like what Del Toro said, like even in that quote, he's like, none of the movies I want to do are easy, and they don't belong to anything or anyone, that wants to do at that time. Like, yeah, that's kind of like a risk that you might have to take, but like they end up doing so much better because they're so refreshing.
And it does give me hope with that quote. Part of the reason I included it was because, like he says, like no one would do superheroes when he did Hellboy.
Yeah,
and Hellboy is one of the movies that really kind of sparked.
They're like the early greats of the superhero.
Yeah, like that '90s superhero movie that really is like, oh wow, this is actually kind of good. Like we can maybe do something with this. Pacific Rim came out, and then what happened after that? We got all sorts of kaiju movies that started to rise up again. We got remakes of Godzilla and King Kong. So I'm not saying it's entirely Guillermo del Toro's fault that we have all of these resurgences and things, but it does give me hope that like he is enough of a visionary that maybe this will like bring more. Like, I would love to see more of like the Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah, I was literally, I'm not getting in my head. Yeah, like I was literally just thinking of like, is it just Hansel and Gretel? I never saw that one. That was one I wanted to see. Never went and saw that. But like anytime, like there's a retelling of like those like either Disney or just like the super happy fairy tale happy endings that just aren't. And it's just such like a wild way of looking at that. But when they're done well, like it's kind of fun. Like it's so fun.
I would love to see like the true story of the Disney princesses, and then just like do Cinderella, but like the actual version of Cinderella, like not the whole like, oh, it's great, like
no bippity boppity boo.
Yeah, no bippity boppity boo. Where you gotta like, doesn't she like cut her like feet so she like fits in the slippers or something?
Yeah,
I feel like that's a thing
because of the glass or something. Yeah, it's
like I want to see that version. Maybe that's a little dark.
That's a little dark.
It's a little dark out of context. That's not going to be a 60
I mean, that's the thing
reel.
with like the Hansel and Gretel. Like one thing I heard with that though is they do like note to the book or whatever, because like at one point, you know, the kids are captured by the witch or whatever, trying to eat them, making them all fat so she can eat them, and then they have to run, and to get out of the woods or something, they have to get through this door, and there's a lock, and homegirl cuts off her finger and uses it as a key, and they like show that, and I'm like, that is the crazy, like that's so like. You don't take your kids, you don't let your kids see that. But that's like the adult version of fairy tale. What's that been like? You know, yeah. It's like.
But I wonder, like, I feel like in an era, we're in an era now too, where a lot of with legacy sequel stuff, like the content is growing with the audience, and so I wonder if there would be an audience for something like that. For like we're getting a little wacky now.
We definitely are. But here's the thing, like honestly, take Del Toro's Pinocchio. Like that is like the example. Like it is dark. It's heavy. It still has the fun numbers, the musical numbers. It still has the comedy and the little lightheartedness. But it's also like,
I mean, this version includes Pinocchio dying several times.
So many times.
And the conversation of what does it mean to be a real boy? Because like in the Disney version, the fairy goes and bibbity boppity boos, and then look, I'm a real boy, and that's it. Here it's no, you are still a puppet. You just get to walk and talk and experience life,
and then you're gonna outlive.
But you aren't living a life.
And
I love the ambiguity of it all. Of Sebastian J. Cricket dies, and he's like, yeah, I haven't heard about him in a while. He's probably exploring the world. He might die one day. We don't know. I love like, I don't know. It's just, it brings a whole new perspective and a whole new like hit. Like
it's a completely.
I didn't cry or anything, but I was definitely emotional watching a wooden puppet.
Dude, I bawled my eyes out.
Just going to his thing.
Yeah, especially for it to be just like, I mean, and when he's first brought alive, he's just this naive, like he's never seen the world. He's trashing the apartment. He's running around, and then to literally go through like a couple weeks, months sort of time, and just I mean, it's such
and become
a heavy,
depressed.
Yeah, to literally learn depression, anxiety, like all these things in like a month's time of being a real boy, like bro. But yeah, no, it was like I said, a more wild, heavier take on the thing. But like I said, I think for a lot of people who would have watched the Disney version or like read the book or something like growing up, I feel like that's the audience for this. You know, like I said, you're not showing this to your kids. You're not showing this to.
I'm curious to see what the backlash is, because I'm sure that there are going to be parents who see, oh, look, it's Pinocchio. Let's show our children this. And I'm curious if.
And you know, I got surprising. I've heard from several families, kind of the shock and backlash for the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. This is kind of off the point, but like where they started it with their kids and they got a few minutes into it and they were just like,
I mean, yeah. I was wondering something when I was watching. You're like, they're getting drunk.
Aggressive.
Like,
yes, they're getting
a whole part of this movie is that they get drunk and they do stupid things. Yeah.
And I was just like, and a lot of families were like, we didn't make it too far into it, or like a few of the guys I was talking to, they're just like, like we watched it without the kids.
But to be fair, I don't think there's a lot that kids would
pick up. It would go over their head.
I don't think they would appreciate much of that special anyway.
No,
there's
no child on this earth knows who Kevin Bacon is.
There's not a lot of flashy
no offense to homie, but like
fighting or anything like that. So I think that's okay, but I could definitely still see it being an issue. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That's an interesting conversation.
Same thing for this. I totally see. Yeah, people turning this on. They start it up, and they just turn it off pretty quick. Yeah. Great movie though.
Fantastic movie. Everybody should watch it. Just maybe not with children.
Just maybe not with your kids.
So we've been discussing Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. When we come back, we're gonna dive into some of our real world origins. I always get excited when I hear about stop motion. Stop motion has a special place in my heart, and I think it is one of the most underappreciated
forms of art
Absolutely. And storytelling. It's totally not biased, even a little bit. I do genuinely believe that, and I think that this part of the reason that this works was because it was told in that kind of style, and that's why it was made on that budget. We're gonna dive in a little more into stop motion, and maybe you'll appreciate it as much as we do by the end of the episode. So stick around.
Dude, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of fun, and it's not as difficult as I thought it would be.
No, not at all. Like Anchor has made it especially easy when it comes to like actually getting our podcast out on the air. Because when hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the listening platforms. So easy getting it over to Spotify, getting it to Apple, wherever you're trying to get your podcast to.
Yeah, I think we're on like 7 platforms just through Anchor, and not even just the distribution, but even just creating the podcast. Like there's so many recording and editing tools within it, so you can record, edit, add music in, sound effects, all sorts of things directly through Anchor, and it is free.
Dude, that's amazing.
It's incredible. So if you would like to start your own podcast, just like ours, go to anchor.fm on your desktop device, or you can go on to your mobile app store and download the Anchor app. We are back.
We're back.
Discussing the art of stop motion animation.
Yeah.
Because Pinocchio is a stop motion animated movie.
It is. That's one of the biggest factors, like the biggest draw I had for this movie.
Oh, 100%.
That was the only main reason I was like...
I had zero interest in this movie until I started seeing the featurettes of how they made it and everything. And I was like, oh.
That's stop motion.
I need to check this out.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so Graham, we know a thing or two about stop motion.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We have.
For the vast majority of people that hopefully don't know, back in the day,
A few people that know us.
We were some stop motion maniacs.
Yeah.
We made all sorts of videos using some
Legos,
stop motion techniques,
stop motion apps, and
doing it all on the phone. It was a whole
dude,
thing.
not even the phone. We had our straight up iPods. Like we had our iPod
That's
Touch.
true.
We would I remember I would take a book, I'd prop it up on like the table, have it level where I needed it. And I thought I was being like a genius at this point in time because I took the OG Apple earbuds.
Oh yeah, you had to take the headphones and then
I plugged it in and used the volume thing to click. So I didn't move my camera and then I'd move and I'd click and I'd move and I'd click. I just felt like I was a straight up pro. I was like, no one has tech that beats this here.
I bought a desk lamp for lighting. And then I took a piece of paper and I taped it to the end of it to make it like a softbox. And it's funny looking.
Bro, that would straight up catch fire.
Well, I left. It was like a U shape. So like I would take the two ends.
Oh, okay.
And I would put it on there. So there's still like lots
concave,
of open
so it was
space.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just funny looking out in front of me right now and seeing an actual camera on an actual tripod and not a little Lego tripod that I made. And an actual fancy light with an actual light box.
Bro, we glue up. We gotta glow up.
We literally glowed up. Yeah, but I don't know. It's crazy just to think like looking back on it, how much, at least for me, how much I learned about all of this stuff and how much of an appreciation I grew to have for all of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I was putting a piece of paper on it to soften the light. Like I didn't understand how that all worked. I just figured out that it did.
Yeah.
And I called that was good enough for me. Like, I don't know. Like it's interesting how like that's how we got our start. I feel like that's a very untraditional way to do things, especially when we did have iPods that could just record straight video. And instead of just having us, I mean, we did do some actual like live action short films and things.
Oh, don't even bring that up, bro. Oh, no, those are buried, dude. Those we never did those.
I don't know. It was interesting how like we figured out that it was a lot easier for us to make something that looked. Yeah. At the time, we thought it looked good. Looking back on it, I'm scared to look back on it. To be honest,
I remember just like sitting there doing the math, like doing it backwards, being like, I need to make a 2-minute video. How many frames do I need to put in this to make it not look just like it is barely moving? Like it was just like. Yeah, we were what? How old do you think we were?
No older than 13, maybe. I feel like 13 might be a little.
Maybe like 10.
I mean, we definitely started earlier than that, but I feel like no older than 13.
Oh yeah, no way. I feel like maybe like 10 years old. Yeah, I just like,
but it's impressive for that 10-year-old. We had like the patience to
the creativity and just the
sit there and do that.
We were like geniuses.
We were.
So we just hype ourselves up.
We were child prodigies. Everybody applaud us in the comments, please. Yeah, I don't know. But stop motion has been something that's been interesting to me, and I've always appreciated it, and I've always enjoyed like movies and things that utilized it, like Pinocchio. But I realized I didn't know a lot about the history of stop motion, so I figured for at least a little bit, we could dive into like the history of it all, like the different uses of it, why it's used in different scenarios and things like that. If you wouldn't mind going on this adventure.
Going back in time a bit?
Yeah, we're going. Oh, I should put my Back to the Future poster.
I was going to say, that would have been great.
Oh, that would have been so good. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to go all the way back to 1898. 1898, for those of you that don't know, I should probably start. Stop motion is the art of taking pictures and moving them, each picture moving something within the frame slightly. And when you put them all together, it looks like it's moving. Like when you take
like frame by frame.
When you take the little notebook and you like would write, like make drawings in the corner and then you like flip
like
really
little flip
fast.
books. Yeah.
Yeah. The flip books. Those are stop motion kind of. It's the same kind of idea.
Okay.
Yes. So stop motion just taking like actual figures and things and moving them around to make them look like they are alive. And so the very first, what's believed to be the first stop motion animation is the Humpty Dumpty Circus, made between 1897 and 1898 by
it's like
by directors J. Stuart Blackton and Albert E. Smith. They used their daughter's dolls to imagine the acrobats, the animals in motion. That was the very first one. I haven't seen this clip before, but I'm looking at the image here. I'll leave a link down to where we're getting this timeline from.
Yeah.
It's from the Wrap.
Which one thing I'm going to say, and this might be the dumbest thing I've ever said, I might be shooting myself in the foot. Anything that's black and white used to just terrify me as a kid. Like no shot I would have ever seen this clip and been like, yeah, that's normal. Absolutely not. That would have...
Interesting.
No, that was straight terror. That was nightmare fuel right there. Same thing with this next one. Yeah, absolutely not. If I saw that, no way am I sleeping that night.
Yeah, so we're going to jump ahead a few years, back over to 1902, and this is kind of where I would have put the start. A Trip to the Moon. It was an early short that was made, and like it's iconic in cinema history in general. It was this big film, and they used stop motion to make it look like a rocket ship had gone into the moon, and the moon has like a face on it, and it looks incredibly creepy if you ask me. But like they used stop motion. The whole film wasn't stop motion. It was just this one aspect of it. Was using stop motion to help elevate the story and to help create a rocket ship flying into the moon. And yeah, it's iconic in cinema history. And then after that, I mean, you get lots of classic things. So you have The Lost World in 1925, based on Arthur Conan Doyle's fantasy of the same name. The Tale of the Fox is another very famous one that you may have heard of. And the list goes on and on. I'm going to jump all the way up to 1961 with the creation of Gumby. I feel like that's where a lot of people's
without realizing it, they probably
like recognition of stop motion really comes in. Because Gumby is an iconic character, and that was using
claymation.
Yeah, it's still stop motion, but they referred to it as claymation because they were taking these clay figures and creating their own characters. They weren't using actual like dolls and stuff like that. They were made out of clay, and so it was a new style. It looked very different, and they could do a lot more things more easily because with clay you can move them in literally any direction you want in any way you want. And so it's a lot easier, especially for like facial expressions, for example. You can just move the clay on their faces and then you can have them do different things. And so it's a lot easier to make actual characters using the claymation subgenre of stop motion, I guess is how I'll put that. That makes sense to me. I think another iconic use of stop motion, and I feel like one of the bigger uses, and I think one of the ways that it was it's why it's so important. As Jason and the Argonauts, there's the very iconic scene of Jason fighting the skeleton army, and the skeletons were all created using stop motion. And so, I mean, it's a pretty interesting technical achievement, the fact that they were able to have a live actor be in a sword fight with a bunch of skeletons that weren't actually there because they would have been animated afterwards. Jason Argonauts came out in 1963.
I want to see that clip.
It's
curious. That's crazy.
Yeah, highly recommend checking. It's. I mean, it looks awful. I mean, just
yeah.
It's the 60s, and they didn't really have the technology, but it was really ambitious for them to do. And it was one of those things that kind of paved the way to the modern superheroes fighting the faceless beings kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I mean, stop motion was allowing these early storytellers to tell stories that they wouldn't be able to in a different kind of way. Because they could have told the story of Jason. They could have had people dress up in skeleton costumes and had a fight. And that would have been one thing, but it would have been really expensive to do that. And also, it would not be as terrifying as actual skeletons where you can see through their rib cages.
Right.
And again, it was also a lot cheaper to do it this way. So, I mean, that's a bonus point. You're able to do it for cheaper and you're able to make it more effective. Obviously, you're going to go with that. And so, while yes, the technology was still very much still developing, it was a very important aspect to cinema history.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about cinema history, but it's Christmas time, and we all love Christmas movies. Particularly, I feel like the stop motion ones have just stood the test of time.
Yeah.
I don't know what channel it was on because I feel like all the cable channels are going up. I was at work and they had like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was on. And I was like,
That's crazy.
Hey, like I'm going to talk about that on our stop motion episode for Pinocchio in a couple of days. But yeah, like, I don't know. Did you grow up watching these movies like I did?
No.
You didn't watch?
I think I maybe saw like Frosty the Snowman. That was like straight animation. I don't think I ever watched it. No.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like, honestly, I've always had a love for it. And I don't think I ever watched anything that was like claymation style, stop motion, any of these really. Yeah.
Interesting. I had a whole like box set of like all of it's like a Christmas box set.
The heck?
And it had like the Frosties on it, but then it had like Rudolph and all of these odd looking claymation
styled
Christmas stories. But I mean, it's interesting how like they told the story.
Wait. I've actually so dumb. I did see one.
Okay.
Claymation Christmas.
A claymation Christmas.
Yeah. That's like an actual movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that I saw.
Should I know this?
I don't know. I thought maybe you did. Maybe you would.
I've never heard of it. So I remember like Rudolph, and I remember there was like a Saint Nick one.
Well, let's just maybe split. Oh wait.
Okay, so you are thinking of the movies that I'm referring to. You just yeah.
So we had the VCR tape, a claymation Christmas celebration that had all of these on there.
Okay.
So yes,
So
I
you have
did see
seen
them. If you would have ever asked me if I saw the year with that Santa Claus claymation, no chance. No, I would have told you absolutely not. Turns out I have seen that.
Whoa.
I know, this is crazy. Wait, actually, my mind is blown right now. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
Graham is learning things about his childhood that he never knew before.
Dude, I never put that VCR in the TV box thing. I just sat there and it turned on.
TV box thing. Huh,
My
interesting.
guy, come at me.
No, I don't know. But I think it's interesting how, I mean, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer came out in 1964.
That's insane.
Which, how else would you tell that story about a flying reindeer with red nose in 1964 without it being gimmicky?
Yeah.
And like, there's something magical to claymation because it's obviously animated. This is before CG technology is available.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they could have made a 2D animation of some sort, and that would have been like everything else that was out at that point in time in this kind of genre. But like seeing 3D models moving around and doing things like that, I wish I could be like in the 60s and see that. And like, I feel like that would be really magical to witness.
That would be awesome.
Like seeing the depth and actual camera work. And obviously it's not real, but like it's how does that?
It's still so impressive. No, yeah. I mean, it's still such a like feet and just like the. Dude, I just drew the fattest blank I've ever had.
You did.
Yeah, just no, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and then I'll jump ahead even more to the 90s to kind of where I first was introduced to a lot of stop motion. Were you a fan of Wallace and Gromit?
I never got to see it.
I
never got to watch the show.
I was obsessed with Wallace and Gromit.
Really?
I don't know why. I don't know what it was about it, but I would watch it all the time. Like the moon was cheese. It was like my favorite thing in the world. And then my favorite movie for a long time was Chicken Run in the year 2000. That's another one. It was all stop motion, claymation, animated. Loved those movies. I didn't realize that that's what was going on, of course. But I wonder if that's part of why I was gravitated towards stop motion animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved those movies. They were very interesting and unique style.
Yeah.
And from there, I feel like I don't need to really emphasize too much. I mean, notable ones are Coraline, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I mean, that's one of Wes Anderson's greatest films, and Wes Anderson is known for his quirky, wacky style, and he was able to incorporate that using stop motion as well. Yeah, I don't know. Stop motion just has a very interesting history. It's had a very important mark and a very big stamp on cinema history and where we are now. And I think it's a little unfortunate that not a lot of people appreciate it the way that it should be.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything more recent, because like even just on this list from the Wrap, the most recent thing it drops, not most recent necessarily, but like the 2009 Fantastic Mr. Fox. I do remember seeing that. I saw that movie. I can't personally think of anything recent.
There's nothing particularly great. And stop motion still used a lot. I remember like Shaun the Sheep was out on like Disney Channel in the mornings when I was a kid. Loved that show. It was
that all
just
stop motion.
Yeah, it was just a little sheep who would get in trouble all the time. And I think it was in like the same style as Wallace and Gromit. So I don't know if it actually is like in the same creators or universe or whatever. But yeah, I really like Shaun the Sheep. That was a stop motion thing. In fact, I was watching Shaun the Sheep while I was like making stop motions. Like I remember thinking like, I remember putting two and two together and realizing that that's what was going on. And then I felt like really special because I was like, I can make these too.
If they can do it, I can do it.
Obviously.
It's nothing. Yeah.
I'm like the greatest because they're doing it on TV and I'm doing the same thing. And it's totally to the same caliber and quality as Disney Channel is making. Yeah, I don't know. That's just a little bit of stop motion history, very quickly, not very thorough and thought out. But if you do want a more thorough, thought out explanations behind everything and a little more detailed history, I'll leave this article by the Wrap in the show notes below. Graham, do you think that we talked about it a little bit at the end of the last segment, but like people are going to see Pinocchio and they're going to see it's animated, and they're instantly going to think that this is for children, which we've kind of established is probably not the greatest, probably not the appropriate mindset. I don't blame people for thinking that, but it's just going to happen. Do you think that like a movie like this can introduce more people to stop motion without them instantly thinking that it's a children's movie? Because even like Fantastic Mr. Fox, it's a fantastic film, but it's very much a children's film. It's on Disney Plus. Coraline is designed for children.
I won't watch that movie. I don't like that movie. Coraline, no, that's terrifying, bro. That's not a kid's movie.
Okay,
that movie I don't like that movie.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. But I feel like stop motion is very much associated
stop motion,
with children.
Right.
But like I said, like with Jason the Argonauts, like stop motion was used because it was more terrifying to have stop motion skeletons than it was for people in stupid skeleton costumes. Do you think that like a movie like Pinocchio, where this is probably the best that stop motion has ever been, to be honest.
Yeah. By far. Yeah.
Do you think that a movie like this could potentially pave the way for more stop motion animation and like allowing people to tell stories in such a unique way?
Yes, if people give it a chance, though.
Sure.
Like that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing, is because I don't even think like. I mean, people might see like a trailer for this and be like, "Oh, that is a kids movie," or like, yeah, they'll just attach it to the idea that Pinocchio is a kids movie, so that's a kids movie. Right. But like I don't know. I honestly wish that they were more like not like in the like X style rating, like adult movie, but like more just like adult driven like movies that were like in this fashion. Like, because there aren't. Like, there's nothing that I like we would go see that is like in like a fixation of movies that we watch now that would be have like any relation with stop motion just because of CGI. But I honestly, I would love to see way more movies with a stop motion style. And I honestly think, yeah, if they were made a little more often, and that's the tricky thing, those they're not being made because there's not too much hype behind it necessarily.
Sure.
But I feel like if someone did send it with stop motion, I feel like a lot of people would adapt and adopt it. And
well, and I wonder too, like, because we always talk about how practical effects are always better than CG.
Always.
And I think, I won't, maybe not always, 90% of the time, practical effects are better than having CG.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, like, if we started taking more things and we started using more stop motion techniques, like imagine, for example, if you did like a Harry Potter remake, instead of having all the magic be CG, like what if you had like pots, like if you did like WandaVision, for example, they didn't do stop motion necessarily, but like all the magic stuff in those first couple episodes were practical because that's how they would have done it. Do you think it could look better? I mean, with the technology, we're using modern technology and using some CG and things, like could having stop motion animation and having an actual practical thing moving as opposed to...
Yes. I would honestly almost 100% of the time say yes to that. I think the only reason we don't see it is just, I mean, no offense to anyone really, but like people are just lazy. They're just not going to.
Well, it's...
Like I think it depends on...
It takes a long time. I mean, Guillermo del Toro has been working on this for 15
and that's
years.
the thing. But
like, it's a very long process. Yeah. It can be cheaper because you can just make a couple puppets and then you don't have to hire actors and you can have a smaller set, I suppose.
Yeah.
So the money balances out in that regard. But when you are making like a Marvel movie, for example, like that would cost a lot of money to take all of that time. I mean, they obviously aren't taking any time to make anything now. So they're definitely not going to do a stop motion in a Marvel movie. But hypothetically, if they did, like, they would take more time, so they wouldn't be able to release it, which would lose them money.
Right.
Hypothetically. They would be working alongside actual actors and things, so, like, that would be more expensive. It would take a lot more time to, like, map that app and work it out. So as much as I think it would be effective in terms of a storytelling element, I do think there would be a financial hit and a time, an amount of time that you can take.
Yeah. But I think it kind of falls between the lines of like, if you want, you know, quality takes time for most things. And especially because like I said, like it would look fantastic. I think it would look great every single time. I don't think you could really go wrong with it.
Especially with a Marvel movie budget.
Exactly. Like you have the money to do it. I mean, with the rushing recently, you have no time whatsoever. But like if they were given the time, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
even just, I think, because going back to what I was saying with like the Christmas, claymation Christmas stuff. I feel like even if you just took more of these animated movies that are coming out and stopped doing so much CG but made them stop motion, it could be a totally different effect. Like one of my favorite movies is How to Train Your Dragon. And I didn't know this, but did you know there was like a live How to Train Your Dragon show? Like they would do it in arenas, and they had like actual like dragon.
Puppets. like a Disney on Ice kind of style, but like where you could go to.
It looks terrifying.
Oh yeah,
I'm watching like this is like the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. But like that could be really cool if they could find a way. Let's still keep it all animated, but make it like a claymation style, which that movie already kind of is replicating. It's CG, but it was earlier stages of CG, so it still very much looked very claymation-y. So what if it was just claymation?
See, I think that, and that's the thing. I think
with the better technology they would have had in 2010.
See, I think kind of tie in what we were talking about with like the Grimm's fairy tales. Like, say you do like, say someone's like, hey, I want to string out all these movies. I want to make them dark. I want to make them real. Don't make them live action. Make them claymation. Like, I feel like that's the thing. If someone was like going to make an animated movie.
And I feel like that
they would have to be presented with the idea, do claymation or animation, like do it either. Because
I don't think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio would work in live action. Like even if Pinocchio even if Tom Hanks even if Pinocchio was still like a wooden puppet, like clay, like could be still stop motion animated and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work just because part of the reason that it does work is the aesthetic of it all.
Right.
Seeing Mussolini be like a 2 foot man, like 2 foot like fat man, like it made it just part of the reason this worked was because of the style and the aesthetic that it was creating with stop motion. I agree. I don't think having a more true to the source version of a Grimm fairy tale would work in live action. And maybe that's why it hasn't been done hardly at all. I wonder if it was made in this kind of style where you can make things a little grittier and a little more interesting to look at. If that's how like something like that could.
Because you just have way more freedom. I mean, it's like the same idea with like CGI. Like you can do relatively anything. Same thing with claymation. Just make it, build it, put it in there, frame by frame. Like there you go. You know, stop motion, claymation, whatever. You know, it's all. But
it's all the same.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to see, like I said, so many more movies, especially in this fashion. The way that they did Pinocchio would be. I wouldn't complain at all. I would love it. But
yeah, I 100% agree.
I just don't think people will take the risk for it.
No, they won't. It's
I mean,
it costs too much
maybe after
in
this
time
though,
and money.
Maybe after this though.
I mean, yeah, I'm very hopeful.
Well, and
like I said earlier,
if you either make your own, like I said, do the Grimm's fairy tales, like make your own franchise of these movies, so that way you don't have to, you know, compete with rushed, you know, products, or you don't have to compete with getting things out on time. Just do your own thing that no one else is like doing. Because same thing with Pinocchio. Like, yeah, we ended up getting 3 Pinocchios in the past 2 years, but like it's not attached to anything. Even with those other movies coming out, it's its own standalone. Like, just I feel like if someone took the idea with that and ran like in this same manner, I feel like it would do great. Just like how this did. I mean, he doubled his money in one weekend.
What if I'm really just like, you know, going way out and spitballing here. What if like Netflix or someone did like a show where it's just an anthology series? It's called The Grimm Fairy Tales, and it was just like 1 hour retellings of the story. And that way, I feel like that could be a little easier of a sell. They wouldn't have to go as extreme as we're going to have this take place in the backdrop of fascist Italy.
Right.
Like,
right.
It could be, I wonder if that would be more of a compelling sell. Because the problem with this ultimately is just finding the money to do it.
Yeah,
I think there's an audience for it.
Absolutely.
I think people would go, this movie is proof of it. And hopefully that future endeavors and people who have these ideas as well.
See, I think future endeavors might not have that problem necessarily. Like the time will always be there. You're gonna have to take time for these things. But that's what. But
another aspect of it too is Guillermo del Toro. This isn't Pinocchio. This is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Right. That is what it's called. So you have that name attached to the front of it. Even people who don't necessarily who can't name a Guillermo del Toro movie can probably still recognize the name and know that that's a famous director.
Yeah,
or a famous movie person of some sort. And so, I don't know, there's a lot of factors that go into the potential of something else like this being made. I really hope something else like this is made.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see it.
Yeah.
This was definitely.
Can we call up Netflix? Do we know the number?
Yeah. Let me just call.
We're gonna go pitch.
Let me just call my contact at Netflix really quick, and we'll let you know how this goes. Because we have a very vast portfolio of our stop motion directing skills. So this isn't going to be a problem whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Graham, do you have any final thoughts on Pinocchio or stop motion as an art form?
Last things I would say is for a lot of people, just give it a chance, because I think a lot of people are going to bring it back to the childhood recognition it has, or childish movies that it can pull from, or if they grew up like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, things like that, they're just going to relate to that. Separate it. If you can, just try and separate it and just enjoy the movie. Like I said, I went in like nothing, no expectations. It was great. I think if you do the same thing, and I mean, besides my opinion, take our opinion, but no one else's. Yeah. Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think you liked it more than I did, which isn't anything wrong with that. Yeah. I did really like the movie. Just it is what it is.
Yeah. That's what it is.
I love seeing stop motion kind of being able to take center stage for a little bit. I really appreciate the fact that a lot of the featurettes, even some of the trailers, are showing some of the process, and so people can be more intrigued by it. And I'm really excited to see what this movie can mean for the future of the art form.
Yeah.
You've been listening to The Popcorn Hangover. We've been discussing Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I'm Alex. That is Graham. Let us know what your thoughts were on Pinocchio and stop motion over on all the things: Instagram, TikTok, Patreon.com/The Popcorn Hangover. Next week, we're going to get prepped for Christmas, and we're going to get a little violent. That is your tease for next week. That's all I got for you.
That's good. Peace.